This program contains crazy material, including offensive language. Listening discretion is advised.
Welcome to another episode of AVO's Padded Room with your hosts, Big Jim and Brad Storm.
Our guest this week has been fascinated by the Sesame Street Muppets since he was 4 years old. He even had the cojones to write Jim Henson when he was 11, asking to work for him. Our guest also discovered his love for music when he began playing the drums at the young age of 8. Fast forward to the college years, where he signed up for a few acting classes, which became a hook, line, and sinker, and which prompted him to receive his BA in theatrical arts. As time went on, our guest has endured the ups and downs of show business, but has always found a way to move on and learn from his mistakes. It's time to get strapped in and enter the padded room, because Larry Mauro, you are locked in and mic'd up.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, pals. So excited. Am I the first guest that's had that kind of screaming right when they come in? I don't know, man. I feel honored.
You're the first.
I have a lot of shoes to fill from the great guests you guys have had, so I'm a little nervous, I must say.
Oh, don't be. You are the first person to have the intro this week, though.
Yeah, it's been great interviewing all these past guests, and you learn so much from each and every one of them, especially when we zoom back into time. We're going to go back in time. That's right. We're going to go back in time with you, my friend Larry, and why don't you take it from there?
Well, as you guys know, since we're pals, big fan. When I was a little boy, I loved doing voices, as a lot of us do. They're in voiceover now. And I was a big fan of the Muppets. When Sesame Street came on the air, I was the kid that show was originally made for. And I was completely fascinated by them. It was a way that I thought maybe I could hide behind these puppets and do voices, because I was super shy as a kid. And it was one of those things where I was like, Mom, get me a puppet. And I started, their puppeteering was so off the chart good with just the way they did stuff and the voices. I was just fascinated. I said, this is what I'm going to do.
Now, when you look at puppeteering though, and a lot of people that are looking at it with not much knowledge on the topic, how can you differentiate between mediocre puppeteering and the elite of the elite?
That's a great question, because I didn't go to school for puppeteering, but I literally really studied the Muppets. Like, I watched, I got my Muppet out next to theirs, and I go, well, now how come they're moving their mouth this way? Oh, their thumb is just doing this, and it's not so much, when you give somebody a sock puppet or put a puppet on their hand, they all do the same thing. They open and close their mouth with every word they say. I go, puppets don't do that. And then watching a lot of documentaries, and then just studying, just like we study anything on our own, right? If you are passionate about something enough, you will sit there and figure it out, right? It's like doing a voice or, acting. You will find a way to learn by studying others, mimic them.
My only puppeteer was a puppet sock when I was a preteen. That's a whole different kind of puppet there, isn't it?
Hey, Larry, speaking of that, you guys remember Sacco and Ollie?
I do.
Do you remember that show on MTV?
That is funny. I totally forgot about that till you just said that, because I was trying to think of what modern day kooky puppet show was there. Yeah, those guys.
Yep, Sacco and Ollie.
Yeah, I did 10 years ago, because I was out of work and I was like, you know what? I don't know when I'll ever get to do this. I did one episode. I created a puppet show that was on YouTube, one episode only. It was called Doug the Bug and His Garden Pals. And it was a fictitious, jacked up local cable access show about Doug, who lives in a garden with his best friend Camel, who's a camel. There is Joe the drunk guy who lives in there. And then there's a big Huggy Bear. And they teach life lessons. And I wrote it, acted in it, did the puppeteering, did the music, did everything, re-looped the dialogue and did all that fun stuff. And the title of the episode was Too Much Cheese is Bad for Your Poo-Poo Time. So you can tell what kind of a show that was going to be. And I had this fantasy, this is going to be just a great fake local cable access show. And it was so hard to make that I'm like, I can't do any more of these.
It takes forever.
Yeah, and it looks like a cheap cable access show, but when you're doing everything yourself, green screen, animation, I'm just like, all right, I can't do it. But I did one, and I'm proud of that, and that's it.
Yeah, it's like, I did one and put like about 110,000 hours into it.
One and done, huh? Now, you had gone to Cal State Chico, right? I guess initially you were working towards a recording engineer degree. Is that right?
Yeah, so doing music my whole life, I played music all through school, all through high school, and I was really good going through. So it was nice being kind of like the cool drummer, skinny kid who's at least I was a musician and everybody thought I was cool. So that's how I got to be with the cool people. But I really took a fascination because of voiceover interest, audio and sound, and I wanted to become a recording engineer. Chico State, which is Northern California, about an hour where I grew up, didn't have anything like that. So radio was the closest thing. As you guys have worked in radio, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you said broadcasting or something like that too as well, right?
Yeah, so it was a communications major, right?
Right.
With an emphasis on broadcasting. So at these studios, I'm going to really date myself because all we had in our little studios was a 1/4-inch reel-to-reel,
Yep.
a cart machine,
Yep.
and a turntable. And a crappy mic.
Yeah.
And that's all we had. And they weren't soundproof. So I was very paranoid when people would walk by the labs. And so every time I was doing my little radio DJing stuff, I was like, hey guys, coming up next, Flock of Seagulls. Because I was just always afraid that somebody would hear me, you know?
When you played your music over there at the radio, did they have like a certain list of songs you had to play it per hour?
Well, here's the thing. I didn't know. Now, thanks for thinking I got on radio. I didn't.
Oh.
This was from my class.
Oh.
But I got really good. I got really good at editing. And here's another missed opportunity. The man who ran the radio station at college said, I did a project on MTV. We had to do a documentary. It was supposed to be 2 minutes long. My project was 8 minutes long because I'm like, I want to do everything in this that I want to do. I don't care if I get a bad grade. I got like a B- on it. But he was amazed at my editing skills. Why? Because all my editing skills were a razor blade and tape.
Oh. How slow can you go?
Picture all the digital editing we do now on the fly.
You appreciate those things now, right? You do.
Totally. Yeah. Everything we do now, I'm like, you kids these days, digital trickery. So yeah, but like Big Jim said in his intro, I took a beginning acting class to really get over stage fright. Even though I was a musician and I performed as a drummer, I always was very timid and I don't like people looking at me. And I fell in love with it, and that was kind of it. And all the other dreams kind of went away. I said, I'm going to go be in comedy, and I'm going to be Tom Hanks' little brother in a movie someday. And me and Michael J. Fox will be on a show together. So it was all that stuff. It never happened.
Yeah, but you learned some lessons along the way. And you had an opportunity to interact with the man with the plan, Jim Henson. And I mean, we're going back from the college. Yeah, we went to college, but we're going to still go back to a time when you were 11 years old with a big dream.
Yeah, when I was 11 was when the Muppet, so now I'm showing you how old I am, was when the Muppet Show aired. And that blew my mind because that was way above Sesame Street stuff. This was like crazy puppets now. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be on this show and I'm going to play drums in the band. So I had two things I was going to do. So I'm like, I'm going to write Jim Henson a letter and let him know that I'm a drummer and a puppeteer and you should hire me. So I had no internet, no way to write. So what did I do? I got out one of my Sesame Street records called Having Fun with Bert and Ernie. And it was made by CBS Records. So my sister, who's 11 years older than me, helped me write a letter to Jim Henson, and we sent it to the record label. That's all we had. Now, here's the thing that's different between how things are now. The record label wrote me back and said, we're sorry, Jim Henson isn't here. He's making Muppet shows in London, but thank you so much. We're going to send him your letter.
Nice.
They sent Jim Henson my letter in London, and somebody from Henson Associates called Ha back then, somebody wrote me back a letter on Muppet stationery. Not only did they write me back, but in my letter I had asked, how do you make a simple puppet? And they say, we can't really tell you how we make puppets because of copyright reasons, but we'll tell you we've included this little booklet on how you can make puppets similar to what we do. I mean, nobody would do this now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And they'd be like, F you, kid.
Yeah. It's just like, who is? I wouldn't even get to them probably, right? Because I would send an email.
Google it, for crying out loud.
Exactly. Be like, just Google that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyways, so I was fascinated. And so I told myself, when I'm an old man at the age of 22, 10 years from now, I have this letterhead, I'm going to call Jim Henson and ask him for a job. So smash cut 10 years later, I'm telling this story to one of my acting coaches, and she's very serious. And she looks at me, she said, so did you do it? I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, did you call, are you going to call Jim Henson? I'm like, no, I'm not going to call Jim Henson. And what are you, nuts? And she goes, but you said you were going to when you were little. Why can't you? I go, what? He's not going to hire me. She goes, how do you know that? You haven't called him yet. So that's what I did. So I called him, and I, of course, didn't call Jim Henson. I called the place and the office. Guy answers his phone, makes me audition for him and do a bunch of Muppet voices. He was really kind of running me over it's like you guys putting the guests on the spot to do an improv. He goes, well, let me hear you do this. Let me hear you do that. Can you do this?
Yeah. Was it Miss Piggy, right?
Yeah. He was asking me to do Miss Piggy.
Why did you do Miss Piggy?
And so when it was all done, he was like, all right, here's what you do. So he told me to put together a cassette tape, which is, you guys know what cassette tapes are? So it was a cassette tape.
I love cassette tapes.
And I went into one of the studios in the music department, and I did about 20 voices. I think I did.
Wow.
And about 8 of them were Muppets, I think. And I wrote little scripts for him, put on a cassette tape and sent it in. I forgot about it. Not really, but you try to forget about it. 3 weeks later, it's Saturday morning, my phone rings, and I answer the phone, and it's the woman that I sent it to. And she said, you sent us a cassette tape with your voices on it? And I go, yeah. And she takes a sip of coffee. I'll never forget it, because it's like, she goes, oh, they're quite good. And it was like this perfect pause. And I'm just like,
and then you have Ferris Bueller. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was all chicka. So she goes, but we don't know what you want to do. Do you want to do voices, or do you want to be a puppeteer? Because we do our voices for Muppet Babies was the only thing that Henson was doing.
Oh, Muppet Babies. I love that cartoon.
Yeah, it was a great show, but it was the only thing that Henson was doing outside of, they weren't doing anything then, because around then they had just done Labyrinth and they had no TV shows.
Was he doing, did he do Dark Crystal too? Was that?
Yeah, Dark Crystal was in 82. Yep. Labyrinth was in 86. And so I was like, no, I want to be a puppeteer. What's that, Jim?
Dark Crystal, man. That was one of my favorites.
Oh, it's a great.
Yeah, I almost pulled a script from Dark Crystal for you today. I almost did.
Oh, no, that would have been great. I have the original movie poster of Dark Crystal from a movie theater with the lines all
framed.
Yep.
Perfect.
It's awesome. So anyways, she said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a puppeteer. So she said, now you got to send us a tape. And I put a tape together with 3 different puppets, sent it in, telling everybody I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to be a puppeteer. And then I moved back home after I graduated and got the letter from Henson saying, hey, good job, not good enough. And they told me everything I did wrong, which was great because it was all good. It wasn't like you suck, don't quit your day job. It was like, here's where you hit the mark, here's where you didn't. You should join a puppeteers guild. You should do this, that, and the other thing. Well, of course, being a stupid 22-year-old thinking I'm going to be a big, huge star, said, screw you guys, I'm going home. And I just kind of just threw it away and said, I don't need you guys. I'm going to go to LA and be a big star. So that's why my wife to this day goes, and I hate to hear this story because you should have called them back and said, what about that voice thing? What about the Muppet Babies? And of course,
that would have been awesome. That was like one of my favorite cartoons.
But see, there you go. There's a prime example. And of course, you know the story because you listened to my old podcast. It's up on YouTube called
Outstanding.
How Not to Succeed in Showbiz. And so if anybody wants to hear that, they can go to my YouTube channel.
I just shared it too, by the way. I just shared it.
I saw that. Thank you.
Yeah, anytime, man.
I remember one of the great memories of Henson was Fraggle Rock in the 80s. Y'all remember that?
Oh, Fraggle Rock was great.
Fraggle Rock.
I didn't have HBO, but yeah, it was great.
Yeah, me neither. Anytime I could see Fraggle Rock, though, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I want to go see it. Yeah. It was hard to find.
Oh, Fraggle Rock was great. I did get to go to about 3 years ago. A buddy of mine is a puppeteer with Jim Henson, and he's now on the new Disney Channel series. Oh man, Ned, it's an alien show. It's really good.
Oh, whatever, but that's got to be awesome.
He's on it. He's also on a children's show called Splash and Bubbles for Henson.
Yeah.
But anyways, when he was filming Splash and Bubbles, he invited me to Henson Studios, and I got to tour the studio.
Nice.
And I got to watch them do motion capturing with their puppets and film. And so it was really a thrill to be able to go there. And like I made a post on my Instagram. I never got to meet my hero, but I got to go to his house.
Yeah.
And so
close enough.
If anything, I got to walk in the Henson footsteps. So that was an honor.
Hey, I got a lot of respect for this. As a youngster, man, you rolled the dice and you moved to LA
I did.
to chase your dreams. Now, give us a lowdown on that.
Yeah, moving to LA, I did everything wrong. You're supposed to move to LA with no debt. I had a lot of debt. I didn't have a job anywhere near Hollywood, so I had to get somewhat of a decent job. But I took a commercial acting class in Hollywood, which was really good. But because I lived a couple hours away from all the action, I didn't really.
It was 2 hours, wasn't it?
It was 2 hours. I lived in what's called the Whittier area
Yeah.
of Southern California. And so it was really tough. I had horrible headshots from this acting class I had taken.
Oh, it was a crappy agency, right? You hooked up with?
It was a modeling agency in Sacramento that did that famous thing where they do on the radio. You want to be a star? You want to be in showbiz? Come to the so-and-so modeling agency and come and audition for us. So then you go and audition and they go, you're great. You're not great enough for this project, but you're good enough to be in our school and pay us $1 bajillion.
Sign on the dotted line.
So I paid them all that money, and I came at the end of it with crappy headshots that didn't even look like me because they tried to make me look like a model.
They came out of a Polaroid camera.
Oh, that would have been better. They were shot really well, but what they did with my face and my hair and everything.
Yeah.
So that's what I had. And so I'm printing out headshots with resumes on the back with little experience other than repertory theater and college. And I kind of was like, this sucks. I'm not, I kind of got out of it and kind of walked away. And then I got back into music and I started playing with some guys that got on a record label.
Yeah.
And I was in this on this small indie label, and I was with them. And and everything kind of came together at once for a couple of years. While I was on the record label, a buddy of mine who had gone to UCLA said, "Hey, have you ever heard of the Groundlings?" I go, "No." He goes, "Dude, they're an improvisational comedy troupe. Like all the guys from Saturday Night Live come from there.
Nice.
You got to go do them." I'm like going, "Dude, I don't like doing improv." He goes, "But you could get on Saturday Night Live." I'm like, "Dude, I don't want." And I'm shooting myself. I'm like, "I don't want to be on Saturday Night Live," which I didn't.
What was their band's name? What was your band's name?
Blackball.
Blackball. Yeah.
It's a surfing term. You'll hear this. Blackball, the water's blackball, which means surfers can't go out. It's too dangerous. So I went and I trained with the Groundlings for a couple years. And I also hooked up with a guy from my Groundlings class that had his own comedy troupe, and he wanted me to be a part of that. So we got to perform at places like the Comedy Store, which is pretty famous, and the Ice House, which is also a famous place. So we got to do that while I was playing in a band.
Where's Pauly Shore's place? I mean, his mom's place.
It's the Comedy Store.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's the Comedy Store.
And you were there?
Yeah, Mitzi was still alive and running.
That's
Pauly
sweet.
Shore and I are about the same age. I think we're a year or two apart. Yeah. So,
I love Pauly Shore, man.
So at that point, I think he was doing like Biodome and all those.
Yeah, Biodome's the best.
Yeah, he was doing those movies. So it was a lot of fun. And I had a commercial agent, which the reason I was doing improv was because commercial auditions are just all improv. Mostly. And you got to be really sharp on your feet. And though I hated improv, it was a good tool because I would go on auditions where they'd walk you in a room and go, "Okay, see all those props?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, leave. One at a time, you guys come in and we need you to do this with them." And you're like, "Okay." And I would just be like, "All right, let's put the Groundlings to use and let's make it happen." And so you do stuff like that. But we all have our best and worst.
That Warcraft commercial.
Oh, the Magic the Gathering?
You wing that whole thing?
Well, that was funny. There was no direction on that. It was just the director said, "Scream and run, and we'll follow you with the camera."
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was just follow me around. That was my one and only thing. And then my other gig before I got dropped by my agent was my first voiceover gig, doing a bit on the History Channel.
Why'd you get dropped by your agent again?
Because there were too many of me and I wasn't getting enough work. They were a big cattle call place. That's what kind of sucks. Same thing happens in voiceover, right?
Well, California, you got to think, man, everybody's trying to be an actor, right?
Yeah, I used to go on auditions with the guy from...
it's hard.
Oh, man, I hate this when I'm not prepared. Comedic actor on Will and Grace. What is his name? Oh, good. Oh, perfect. Woo!
Yeah.
Let the games begin. Let the games begin. Let the games begin.
Yup, it's time for this week's round of a VO's Padded Improv. Now, Larry, I've supplied you with an excerpt from the song Boys in the Hood. And in keeping with themes, you can read it as your favorite Muppet. So when you're ready, Larry, the mic is yours.
Okay, I'll read it, and you tell me if you know who this is. All right?
A car pulls up, who can it be? A fresh El Camino rolling Kilo G. He rolled down his window and he started to say, it's all about making that GTA. Because the boys in the hood are always hard. You come talking that trash, we'll pull your card. Knowing nothing in life but to be legit. Don't quote me, boy, because I ain't said shit talking. Muppets don't swear.
Muppets don't swear. That's right.
Actually, they do. There's actually a show called...
that one with what's her face?
Well, there's that, yeah, but there's an improv show called Puppet Up, which was in Vegas and Hollywood, where they get all these Muppeteers, and it's improv, but it's adults only.
Oh.
And my buddy that we talked about that got me at Jim Henson, he's one of those guys too.
Nice.
You guys might like that. Nice.
You want to give this other one a whirl? So
all right.
We got the Muppet Show song, everybody. And, we're not Liberace over here, but we're going to try to do our best that we can.
Well, today we're going to do an extended version.
All right.
I'll let you take it away, Larry, and then I'll come in as the old man, and then we'll all come in.
All right.
As, the end.
Okay.
Let's leave it
Music, maestro.
Dum, 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 dum.
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight.
It's time to put on makeup.
Dum.
It's time to dress up
Dum,
right. It's time to get things started. Why don't you get things started?
I always dreamed we'd be back here. Dreams? Those were nightmares.
It's time to get things started on the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, Muppetational. This is what we call the Muppet Show. Oh, that was a complete. Thank you, delay. That was completely.
Oh my God.
Have fun.
We might just cut that one out of there.
I know, but you get some good time syncing editing skills in there.
No, I like that. I didn't know how the end went.
Shit, I guessed on that one. I went good.
What the hell?
That was awesome.
Anyway, I loved it. I think it's great.
It was
It's good
awesome.
to laugh and it's good to sing. You got to sing. It makes you feel good inside.
You gotta sing, man. Sing, dance, do it all.
You talk about making mistakes, right?
Yeah, tons.
Hopefully, in the grand scheme of things, we all make mistakes, but learn from them. So, what advice would you give to an aspiring voiceover artist that's looking to do some character work, or just actors in general? What kind of advice would you give to them?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is
What?
What's Jim laughing at?
What are you laughing?
The fucking song we just did.
Holy shit!
How long did that take to kick in there, Jim? Where you're like, wait, what just happened?
Oh, for the last 30 seconds, I've been holding it in, man.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, man, they're both good.
It's hard to all sink it in at once at the end. I didn't know the timing on that one, but
I didn't know what we were gonna do. My advice always has been first and foremost is be prepared. And so what's that mean, right? Be prepared. Anything that you're going to do, prepare everything you can before you go execute it. Whether it's moving to LA, just to move, get a job. But for voiceover people, it's like if you want to be a character actor, classes in session, man, Saturday mornings for me, right? Cartoons.
Yep.
Now it's anytime you want. Go on YouTube and start watching your favorite type of show.
Right.
Start learning how things are done. Now, on top of that, you gotta train, right? Don't ever think you're beneath training. You're never, one of my greatest drummers of all time, Neil Peart from Rush.
Oh, God bless you, my friend.
He studied till the day he died. You know what I mean? He wasn't ever beyond. He even had a coach at his age, right?
Yeah, that was sad to me.
It was sad. He had a really rough life at the end with his health and losing his wife and kids.
Arthritis.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was horrible. But, it's like, don't ever neglect always being coached, being coachable. That's a big thing. All three of us have learned that from training with Domingo, right? A big thing that Domingo will say, you need to be coachable, because if someone tells you, don't do that, don't go, yeah, but I was thinking, no, but see, you don't understand.
It doesn't matter what you think.
Yeah, you don't understand. This is what that whole thing, right? The first rule in improv is what? Yes, and.
Yep.
You never say no. And so going back to the Muppets, it was like, I should have said yes, and. What about the Muppet Babies? Not no to voiceover, right? So yeah, it's you just have to be able to be willing to do what it takes. And I know these are pretty broad, generic kind of answers, but I can't stress enough how you got to prepare. You can't just wing it.
Yeah, keep an open mind.
Yeah. You guys know that, right? I know how hard you guys are working.
You learn that over time, but if you're somebody like us that has been there and done that and has failed time and time again.
Oh, yeah.
If you're young and listening to this is beneficial.
Sure.
You got to look at the bigger picture. I mean.
Right. It's a long haul, isn't it?
It's a long, long haul. And I wish I would have started doing it in my 20s, voiceover wise.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I just got back into voiceover a little over a year ago. I had actually hung everything up and said, when will I be able to do this? But I had a lot of opportunity come my way where I could do it now with technology and with the type of work I do and media. It's a perfect match, so I'm very thankful even at my age. What's funny is I'm on this YouTube series that's coming out, and I'm a 19-year-old boy, and the woman who's playing my mom, I'm 4 years older than her.
Who cares?
Yeah, and I've got an older sister who in real life is probably 22. So it's like, it doesn't matter. That's what's the beauty about voiceover work, right?
What a dysfunctional family.
All right, nobody knows.
Now, Brad, would you be able to have the same outlook on rejection in your early 20s as you do now, or is it?
No, because I thought I was the shit. I thought I knew everything. I didn't think anybody could tell me anything else. And I screwed up a lot of contacts and relationships that way. So.
Yep. Isn't it funny how we wish we could go back in time and tell our old selves, hey, moron.
Yeah, stop being a jackass.
Well, our young selves would have just beat our asses then.
Yeah. Hey, dummy, listen to me. That kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like that guy in Happy Gilmore, is that he'd come out and go, jackass.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny because with everything we do, like everything comes at the right time, I would like to say. And for me, everything in my life, my career, my family, this new career, all late in life. And I wouldn't change it for the world. And it's easy for me to say that because I didn't have it back then, but I really could look back and go, you know what? I would have screwed this up 20 years ago. So I'm glad it's now.
Yeah, I wouldn't have stayed on track because I was in a band as well. I was a ring announcer. I did a lot of different things. And I just was trying to find the next best thing all the time. And instead of just grinding it out and seeing what would evolve.
I learned one thing, if I could say this quote. The singer in my band, Blackball, had told me when we were rehearsing for the first few times, it wasn't really my kind of music. So I could play it proficiently, but it wasn't my genre. And I came out of the studio going, man, I really think I got it. And he goes, you don't have it. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, you could play it fine.
Yeah.
He goes, but you have to love what you do, because the kids are going to see that you don't like what you're doing, even though you could play it great. He goes, you're great at a lot of things, Larry, but you have to be amazing at one.
That's beautiful.
And I took that to heart, to where it's like, you've got a million, we all have a lot of talents. Jim, Brad, you guys all have many things you can do, but we won't get anywhere if we just do halfway it with 10 things. We got to pick one thing. Okay, this is the thing. For us, it's voiceover, right? This is what we're going to do. Forget everything else, because we are not going to succeed if we try to just spread ourselves too thin.
Wow. I think that's great. What do you see for the future of your business going forth?
Well, I'm just trying to plug away like you guys. My real dream is I want to do commercials. I love doing commercials. And I know that's the entry way to most voiceovers through commercials, but I also want to be in video games and in animation. And it's funny that the little pieces of animation I've done, I'm just doing my own voice, which is funny. Because I'm like, I want to do a cartoon voice, but I recently voiced a firefly and a frog for the same animation.
Nice.
We'll see how that comes out.
Yeah, let me know how that goes.
Because they're two completely different voices, and we'll see if it does. It's just some animation that somebody's doing. We didn't get a chance to talk about the services like the P2P, pay to plays, and all that stuff. We can do that another time. But yeah,
there'll be other times here.
Yeah, recently I did a few video game trailers myself, man. I'm really starting to enjoy those now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You got a great voice for that.
Yeah, some first-person shooters, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that one that you did. It was like a Call of Duty style.
Tip of the Spear Task Force Elite. That's the one I did.
That was awesome.
Well, Larry, I appreciate it, man. I learned a lot, and you brought back a lot of memories from the 80s.
Glad this old guy could help you guys out.
Hey, Larry, it's been a pleasure having you on the VO's Padded Room podcast. Why don't you give a shout out to all your social media links and websites?
You guys can find me at Tune In Tomorrow. That's TUNEINTOMAURO. It's a play on my last name. TuneInTomorrow.com. You can follow me on Instagram at TuneInTomorrow. And you could check out my YouTube channel, which is Larry Boy LA. That was pre-voiceover. So Larry Boy LA, and that you can hear my old podcast that I'm bringing back, special episodes of How Not to Succeed in Showbiz. I'm just putting them up as YouTube videos, which you could hear the Jim Henson story like Brad listened to. And I'm on LinkedIn too. I think it's Larry Mauro at LinkedIn. I have to check that out, but you could find me. I'm everywhere.
Big Jim, baby. I'm going to hand you off the baton.
Absolutely. You can reach me at bigjimmedia.com. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter is at Big Jim Media. Or email me direct at cjamesvo@bigjimmedia.com.
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at BradStormVO. You can also follow me on Facebook, BradStorm Voiceover, and on LinkedIn, BradStorm Lanew. Larry, we're going to have to do this again, my friend, because there's more to talk about.
Yeah, old guys got stories, man. We could talk about auditioning for stuff. It's all kinds of fun stuff. I love laughing at my failures because I do learn from them, but you got to laugh or you're not going to make it.
And remember, when life's got you down and shit gets real, to always remember,
you need to punch every day in the face.
Yeah!